Greetings, everyone, and welcome to TFT Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with Oberon and Banshee. And in addition to all of the readings we do, the various pre-recorded readings and our live readings and the cards of the day on our other media, we also do some unboxing of tarot cards because Banshee and I are both great collectors of tarot cards and other oracle kind of sets. And so we're always getting something new. And this is a really, really cool set I'm going to be unboxing today. It's Todd Alcott's Horror Tarot. I'm not very familiar with Todd Alcott, who they are, but it's a lovely, lovely set. It comes packaged in a box that makes it look like it's a big book of horror stories or something like that. In fact, this tarot is basically a homage to horror writing and horror creation of various sorts. So let me tell you about it. It's quite unique. It really is. It's a pretty cool set. It reminded me rather a lot of a tarot that came out a year or so ago, the Pulp Tarot, Pulp Fiction Tarot. And that was sort of like a look at a lot of different pulp fiction kind of concepts in the tarot cards. Somebody took the basic tarot cards and found ways to express them with pulp fiction kind of fiction images. And if you're not aware, pulp fiction and things like that, and what we're going to be showing you here is sort of like noir genre or mystery or sci-fi fantasy horror genre from a previous period of time, basically probably the 20s through the 60s, 70s, when it was more or less that classic period, and several decades had its own little niche in different things. So the basic premise of the Horror Tarot is that it's sort of a collection of creations by a fictional, quote-unquote, set of horror movie studios, horror fiction writers, horror comic book writers over a span of several decades. And so the booklet describes the concept of each of the inputs from these, but basically put the major arcana represent movie studios' work in the genre. So it's sort of like fictional movies or movies made in a fictional sense that we know from the 20s, 30s, 40s even, as movie posters. So each of the major arcana are sort of realized as a movie poster. And they do the same thing for the minor arcana. So the suits are either horror comics, there's also horror fiction, and things of the sort. So we're going to get into it. We're going to dive into it now, kind of explain it all, I hope. So let's begin. And card 1 is the Fool, and it looks like a movie poster. I know it's reminiscent of something that I just can't quite remember this one, so boo on me for that. Maybe they're just reminiscent in a way. And that's the Magician, and it looks like some sort of classic 70s magical mayhem movie. The High Priestess, and note how it does say what the card is on this particular one, right under the legend. And as I mentioned before, this is posters, or said to represent posters that are done maybe in a genre style of the 40s or 50s, 20s, 30s, and it says Horror Tarot Presents. So it's done like a poster. I'm not going to read all of these. This is an interesting one. The Emperor. The ultimate authority rests with him. Horror Tarot presents Major Arcana card number 4, the Emperor. So to some degree, some of these cards do sort of explain the meaning of the card by giving it that sense of its Hollywood type movie slogan that went on the so-called movie poster. The Hierophant. This looks more like a 60s kind of the homage to the man with the X-ray eyes, Ray Milland. He sees through this material world and into your very soul. Definitely like a 50s sci-fi. The Lovers. I'm thinking of Attack of the Colossal Beast or something like that. Love is grand, but it always leads to trouble. Well, isn't that the truth? The Chariot, and this looks more like 80s, 90s kind of horror card. The warrior drives at night under a crescent moon. No hands on the wheel. He steers by force of will. Strength. Like I said, they kind of look like iconic movie posters. They almost seem like they remind you of one, or they're very reminiscent of one. This one seems to the Hermit. The 9th card in the Major Arcana. It says, oh, like I didn't know that. The Wheel of Fortune. Pick a fate. Any fate. And it looks like a horror movie. Justice. We dare you to look at the world from this point of view. The Hanged Man. And of course, it bears mentioning, of course, that, you know, there's a certain sense of luridness about these movie posters. And so it does represent kind of the sense of horror cinema during these various decades. Death. And I'm not sure, this one could be anywhere from the 40s to 60s kind of style. Temperance. Your life is in the balance. Isn't that like a horror movie poster? The Devil. Sex, obsession, abduction, enslavement. All the things that make life worth living. Oh, that's too funny. And this looks like Poseidon Affair or something. The Tower. They were young, healthy, wealthy, beautiful, free, and in love. Until tonight. And it's too hard for me to read all the fine print. I'm reading it on this one. Horror Tarot presents the 16th card in a Major Arcana. In the Major Arcana, the Tower. The Star. The Moon. And of course, it's got a werewolf. The Sun. That's almost like some sort of omen, child, shadow. Okay, speak of the omen. Judgment. the world. And it almost looks like one of those, giant eyeball controls the world movies. Kind of a 50s thing, but the art looks a little different. So then the Suit of Wands looks like horror magazines. And by horror magazines, I'm talking about a late 50s, 60s, and 70s. I think it petered out, was revived maybe later. Famous Monsters of Film Land, which for kids my age, especially men, of course, probably not women so much, but it changed. It was like the film fan for horror films magazine. And we ran to get it at the newsstand, blah, blah, blah. There was dozens of issues. Maybe it was over 100 issues. It was very lovingly put together by somebody, Forrest J. Ackerman, who was the collector of many monster memorabilia, things from sets of Hollywood movies. He had his own little museum, and he's sadly been gone for many years. But Famous Monsters of Filmland. So this is kind of the style of the magazines. So we're starting off with number one, the Ace of Wands. And these magazines really did look this way. That kind of magazine, different titles on it, representing stories inside. Two of Wands, and it's Dracula with his plans for the world. How appropriate. And then it's Three of Wands, and it looks like Nosferatu, Orloff. And Four of Wands, that looks like the original silent version of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, silent classic film. Five of Wands, which is about competition, and it says when monsters fought. And it definitely looks like the poster, or not the poster, but the magazine cover. It's got Godzilla and Ghidorah and other monsters on it. And this is a classic, but more modern, somewhat more modern. The Six of Wands, and it looks like They Live, the, was it a John Carpenter film in the 90s, maybe? Seven of Wands, trapped. But who is the monster? And of course, it shows a typical, the villagers are trying to get at the Frankenstein monster. Ooh, I like these cards. The images are definitely evocative for a geek like me. I'll have to say that. The Eight of Wands, and that looks like from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 50s version, the couple running from the, once again, mad villagers. Change is coming, it says. Nine of Wands. And I'm not sure which movie or thing it invokes. Remember, Famous Monsters was about films, so the images are probably from films too, but they're done in this magazine sort of style. It's very evocative too. The Ten of Wands, it's a classic movie, the Charles Laughton version of Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's a real tearjerker in a way. It's kind of a sad, sad tragedy. And that's the Nine of Wands for you. The 10, whoops, that was the Ten of Wands. Whoops, did I screw that up? I did, I guess, a little bit. So that was the Ten of Wands. Then the Page of Wands as Regan Blair from The Exorcist. The Knight of Wands, Jack Nicholson in The Shining. And the Ten of Wands looks like, what's his name's mom from Psycho, Norman Bates' mom from Psycho, the skeleton down in the basement. The King of Wands is Blackula. I forget the actor's name at the moment. William Marshall. Ace of Cups. And these now are paperbacks. You can kind of tell it sort of resembles a paperback. So horror paperbacks was kind of a thing, or is still a thing. There's lots of those. I remember my mom loved suspense, mystery, horror, supernatural paperbacks. She had dozens and dozens, and every once in a while she would give me some to read, or she would give them away to her library or other places. But they all had a sense of their own lurid art for the covers too, which is what the Horror Tarot by Todd Alcott is really about. It's about horror art as expressed on magazines, posters, and things like that. It has a very nostalgic genre, specific era feel to it. So let's get back. The Ace of Cups, Two of Cups. This is maybe more suspense vein. Who knows? The Three of Cups, and in a way that picture sort of evokes the Brides of Dracula from the Bela Lugosi movie. It may be the way that they're posed. The Four of Cups, the Five of Cups, and I'm not specific enough knowing about horror fiction paperbacks especially, so none of these are ringing big bells for me. This one looks more like kids' school books. When we were kids, Dick and Jane, Six of Cups. But they definitely have that feel of being like from some sort of paperback. The Seven of Cups looks more like sci-fi fantasy, which of course the Seven of Cups is about. The Eight of Cups, and the Nine of Cups is technically known as the Wish card. So I'll have to ponder that image there, as it is a horror tarot. It's probably something I'll have to dig at a little bit. The Ten of Cups, and I know some books, have photographs that are either supposed to be or are fakes of real people in real bad situations. The Page of Cups, more vampiric follies of some sort. And of course, Cups is really about blood in a way, so I'm not surprised. The Knight of Cups, that almost looks like from a Robert Bloch novel. I don't know if he did Psycho or one of those anyways, but the Queen of Cups, she's a vampire. I swear she is. Okay, maybe she's not. And finally, the King of Cups. So all very well and cool. Now the Suit of Swords is the one that I do have some expectations for, because the Suit of Swords is based on what was known as the EC, that was the comic brand, horror comics of the 50s, and they were so gruesome in some respects that it did prompt the beginnings of the Comic Code Authority that lasted for another 10-15 years. I don't remember exactly how long after that. And it was on most of the regular comic books because horror comic books faded out. There was too much pressure to get rid of them, that they were just corrupting young people in the 50s. Go figure. So anyways, the Suit of Swords, EC Comics horror genre sort of style. This is what these comic covers kind of look like. This is a good representation. So this is the Ace of Swords. I'm looking for the ace mark and I don't see it because it just says oh, there it is. It's up in the corner. It's almost like it is a comic book appellation where it was usually in the upper right-hand corner, so it says ace. So this one says 2. And of course, the Two of Cups is about a lady holding swords, so it just sort of fits that there could make some sort of horror comic image. But this one, of course, is classic because, of course, they often had a lot of skeletons on the covers or zombies or things. And so the Three of Swords, Three Swords, Piercing a Heart, and classic horror too. The horror comics were sort of like maybe a homage to the 30s, 40s horror movies, but a lot more gruesome because after all, it was the 50s and things were getting really cool and dangerous. We think now is cool and dangerous, but the 50s actually were pretty interesting too in a respect. Things just waiting to break out. Finally did the 60s, but here we are. It's the Five of Swords. And a typical swamp scene from one of these horror comics. There was a lot of swamp zombie scenes and stuff. Six of Swords fits right in place there. Seven of Swords. And note the little guy underneath her, like in a coffin, or I don't know what that is, but Eight of Swords. Very nice. Just about exactly right. Nine of Swords, high anxiety. And Ten of Swords, doom. It says doom. How much fun is this? This is a lot of fun. This is not so bad. So then, oh, of course, I'm not done with the swords. There are, of course, the Page of Swords, and it looks like a little mean girl who has the whip or the knife. And the Knight of Swords, this was typical too. Somebody about to get sacrificed to a demon or whatever. And the Queen of Swords, that's pretty much take no prisoners, eh? And of course, there are always some horrible aliens too in a lot of these horror comics. So King of Swords doesn't hold back on giving us at least one alien. All right. So I'm going to look this up real quick, what the Pentacles are. As a genre, it doesn't look real specific to me. Like the others were clearly movies or magazine covers or comic book covers. Ah, pulp magazines. So these are sort of like the pulp magazines of the 30s and maybe 40s that had pretty much lurid, racy kind of covers, but they were fiction. So the only art was on the covers. Maybe there were some illustrations inside, but they weren't like movie posters or paperback novel covers or magazine monster film covers or comic book covers. They were pulp fiction. And of course, they had a lot of lurid, horror kind of stuff. So, excuse me. Whoops. The Knight of Pentacles. Or the Suit of Pentacles with the Ace. And of course, Ace in a hand. Two of Pentacles. Oh, this looks so familiar, like Pulp Fiction. This one kind of reminds me a little bit of the Pulp Fiction Tarot a little bit. And there was either, if it wasn't murder, mystery, horror, it was sci-fi, sci-fi-ish kind of stuff. Look at this one. The Four of Pentacles. Very typical kind of covers. I love it. And the Five of Pentacles. And yeah, this captures as a pulp magazine fiction cover, pulp fiction magazine cover, the sense of isolation and dread of the Five of Pentacles. And then the Six of Pentacles. And it says the spirit of charity, and it's like a ghost who is giving money, So it's kind of funny. It's sort of like the reverse of Dickens in a way. So then we have the Seven of Pentacles. Eight of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles. I like that. This one's interesting because it almost looks like, you know, pulp fiction heroes or characters, sort of the forerunners of comic book superheroes, you know, did appear in Pulp Fiction in some ways. Okay, so then we are on to the court cards, and it's the Page of Pentacles, and it's the Knight of Pentacles, wow, I like it. The Queen of Pentacles, and there's like some bat on her face or something. I don't know what the heck that is. So crazy. And then finally, the King of Pentacles, the man who has everything, it says. How wild is that? So this is a really great tarot. I really like this set a lot. So I'm glad I got it. I don't remember if she talked me into getting it or if I talked myself into getting it. But it's a riot. It's just really fun. So that was fun doing that too. I've been trying to get better lingering pictures of the cards, you know, less glare hopefully, and trying to talk about some of the qualities of the cards. Banshee says I need to spend more time with that. So hopefully this was a better shot. Next up will be one or two more unboxings before I get done with my backlog. So watch for those. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.